Several characters died and then came back to life on the original Star Trek television series. Today, we're going to take a look at this phenomenon.
Perhaps we could cover a little philosophical ground. Life, death, life, things of that nature.
The original series Star Treks 2, 3, and 4 formed a loose trilogy on the death, burial, and resurrection of Spock. At one point, Dr. McCoy asks,
"You mean I have to die to discuss your insights on death?"
Forgive me, Doctor. I'm receiving a number of distress calls.
I don't doubt it.
but the fact is Dr. McCoy did die during the episode Shore Leave, so they should have been able to share insights on death. In fact, several characters died on the original Star Trek and were brought back to life. The first was the aforementioned Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy in the episode Shore Leave, written by science fiction great Theodore Sturgeon.
Theodore Sturgeon was the most important short story writer in the early formation of, what people now might call literary science fiction.
Shore Leave was one of 2 Star Trek episodes that Sturgeon wrote, the other being the classic Amok Time, which saw Spock having to return to Vulcan to mate. I found it strange that Spock's parents weren't at his wedding, personally. Hey, but that's a subject for another video.
Sturgeon also had an insight into character that you didn't go to Heinlein or Asimov, or for that matter, Bradbury for.
Gene Roddenberry deemed that Theodore Sturgeon's original script contained too much fantasy and lacked credibility. Gene L. Kuhn was assigned to rewrite it. However, Kuhn misinterpreted the task and his draft turned out to be even more of a pure fantasy. Roddenberry then began to heavily rewrite the script. But as the production team had run out of time, Roddenberry had to do so while the episode was being filmed. The episode was being rewritten as it was being shot. Cast members recall Gene Roddenberry sitting under a tree, frantically reworking the script to keep it both under budget and within the realms of believability. As a result, the filming went over schedule and took 7 days instead of the usual 6. A chained tiger was brought in to appear in the episode, but never directly interacts with any of the performers. William Shatner had originally hoped to wrestle it, but was persuaded that it would not be a wise decision. And in case you were wondering why this is the only episode in which the USS Enterprise is seen orbiting a planet from right to left, other than Mirror Mirror, of course, the shot was deliberately reversed in post-production because the shape of the eastern United States and the Caribbean Sea could clearly be seen on the globe that was used as a model for the planet. The original script featured Human Rand as part of the landing party, but as the character was written out of the series, she was changed to Human Tanya Barrows. Also in Theodore Sturgeon's original script, the Human had a share of close scenes with Kirk. In the rewrites, Gene L. Kuhn and Roddenberry changed these to feature Dr. McCoy instead, and then introduced Kirk's old Academy flame Ruth to the story. Theodore Sturgeon commented about the installment. That was a gas, because anything could happen. Any wild idea you could possibly have could be stuck into that script. Everybody had a good time with that one. Sturgeon submitted a story outline for a sequel, Shore Leave 2, in April 1968, but it was not produced. It is unknown whether any of the concepts from that outline were later worked into the animated episode Once Upon a Planet, which was the actual sequel to Shore Leave. Writing credits for that episode include Gene Roddenberry, Chuck Menville, and Len Jansen. Composer Gerald Fried based the Finnegan theme on the Irish jig heard during the climatic fight scene between John Wayne and Victor McLaglen in The Quiet Man. This is a rare occasion in which McCoy shows a romantic interest in a woman. The others were The Man Trap, Friday's Child, and For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky. When Sulu is found practicing with the revolver, he remarks that he doesn't have one like it in his collection. Clearly, gun control fails, and gun owners' rights are alive and well in the future. Whether Sulu was allowed to bring his collection aboard the ship or whether he had to leave it behind on Earth was unspecified. Scotty also dies and is brought back to life during the episode The Changeling.
Dead, Jim.
Let's take a look at some trivia from that episode. The biographical photo of scientist Jackson Roykirk is of the director Mark Daniels. He was wearing Scotty's dress uniform. In conventions, Nichelle Nichols frequently tells the story of getting into a dispute with director Mark Daniels over the filming of this episode, as it had already been established that Uhura's first language was Swahili. Nichols believed that, after her mind was erased, Uhura would revert to her first language. However, as Nichols herself did not speak Swahili, Daniels wanted Uhura to speak English. Nichols refused to, telling Daniels, "Nichelle Nichols doesn't speak Swahili, but Uhura does." Gene Roddenberry was eventually brought in to settle the dispute, and he sided with Nichols. A linguist specializing in Swahili was then brought in to write the few lines of Swahili that are spoken in the episode. The Changeling Nomad bears a striking resemblance to the Outer Limits episode The Probe, which aired just 2 years earlier.
An unmanned capsule, an automated device that'll be sent out into space. And once it gets there, it'll perform a variety of experiments by testing the soil, the atmosphere, plant life.
The lines from Nomad, "What is the meaning of this?" and "What is singing?" were sampled on the song Come With Me by the Information Society on their 1990 album Hack.
What is the meaning of singing?
The story implied that Nomad was Earth's first probe out of our solar system. In actual fact, Pioneer 10 was the first craft to reach interstellar space. Ironically, Pioneer 10 is the probe destroyed by the renegade Klingon commander in the movie Star Trek V. Chekhov also dies in the episode Spectre of the Gun, where he is mistaken for Billy Claiborne. It was with the death of Chekhov that Spock realizes that they can get out of this predicament, since Billy Claiborne actually survived the original gunfight at the OK Corral.
Doctor, in your opinion, what killed Mr. Chekhov?
A piece of lead in his body.
Wrong. His mind killed him.
Spectre of the Gun was written by Lee Cronin, which was the pseudonym of Gene L. Kuhn. Some have assumed that it was used because he was unhappy with the results. Actually, it was because he had left Paramount and was under contract with Universal. So he wasn't supposed to be working for Paramount at that time. One scene that was never filmed included Dr. McCoy, who was in this reality McLowry, played by DeForest Kelley, of course, offering to share his medical expertise with Doc Holliday, played by Sam Gilman, to treat his progressing tuberculosis. This episode was first broadcast on October 25, 1968, only 1 day before the 87th anniversary of the actual gunfight at the OK Corral. This is the original series' only foray into surrealism, with unique set designs by Walter M. Jeffries. There are some errors regarding the historical gunfight, as opposed to this episode. Morgan Earp is referred to by Kirk as the man who kills on sight, when the real-life Morgan, by most reliable accounts, was an even-tempered lawman who used his gun only when he was forced to. The gunfight in the Melkoshian scenario is treated as a pre-arranged event, when actually it was a more or less spontaneous affair. The gunfight took place near the hour of 3 o'clock rather than 5 o'clock. That was shown in the episode. The sparkling sound effect heard in the background while the crew is in Tombstone is also heard in the Orson Reports segment at the end of most episodes of Mork and Mindy. So, there were 4 Star Trek, the original series characters that were killed and brought back to life. And the last original series character to be killed was Captain Kirk in the film Generations. I'm sure that William Shatner thought that, just as they had done with Spock, Kirk would also be brought back to life in a future movie. Unfortunately, this wouldn't happen. Mr. Shatner explains why.
And I say to Berman, got a book where I suggest how to bring him back. He said, no, we're going to go with the next generation.
As William Shatner has also pointed out, the powers that be at Paramount seem to be eradicating his character, as Kirk does not appear in any promotional material that showcases the various franchises. It seems that the ignoring of the founding captain of the Star Trek universe was being done long before now. They killed 5 main characters of the original series, yet only left 1 dead. Not to be outdone, William Shatner would bring back Kirk in the Star Trek novel Ashes of Eden. The novel opens with Ambassador Spock on planet Veridian 3 following the events of Star Trek Generations. He is standing at the site where Captain Jean-Luc Picard had buried Captain James T. Kirk, paying final respects to his fallen friend. Following the publication of their book Federation, Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens were contacted by Pocket Books editor Kevin Ryan. He was asking about whether they would be interested in collaborating with William Shatner on a new book. Shatner had just completed filming as James T. Kirk on the film Star Trek Generations, which showed the death of his character. Both Shatner and Pocket Books wanted the character's story to continue in novel form. The novel was set immediately prior to the events of Generations. After the trio submitted the manuscript to Pocket Books, the response was positive and wanted to know if a sequel was possible. DC Comics published a one-shot graphic novel adaptation of the novel in 1995, the writing credits of William Shatner and Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens. I must say that as a huge Captain Kirk fan, I am very disappointed in the fact that they killed 5 major characters in the original franchise, but only left the iconic Captain dead and did not resurrect him, as they did with the others. Well, that's all the time we have for today. This is Kevin Given, and I'd be very honored if you would subscribe to my channel, click the bell to stay informed of future episodes, check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise in the comments section below, and please leave a comment if you'd like. Until next time, this is Kevin Given saying so long, live long and prosper, may the Force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.